Morning, everyone. Welcome to this morning's edition of the MPC Markets Morning Call, 25th of November 2025. We're going to do something a little bit different over the next few days in terms of we're leading into Thanksgiving. There's not a lot of market news around, so we're just going to cover a few little bits and pieces in a little bit more depth rather than the market news, because otherwise we would have the world's shortest morning pod. So we'll just take this opportunity and try to use this time effectively. We had a tech surge last night, basically led by Google, and they're getting rave reviews of Gemini 3, their new AI large language model, and essentially that dragged up the likes of Broadcom, particularly because they make a lot of Google's chips, and there was sort of a bit of a deal done there. So just having a look at the markets overall, we already had the bounce back yesterday in the ASX 200. It's gone a further, a further couple of percent overnight. So we'll expect the SPY to be fairly well bid. And the Nikkei was shut. I believe it was a bank holiday. The Hang Seng was up, but then you've got the Dow up 0.44, the S&P 1.5, the Nasdaq 2.6, and the Russell 1.8. There was a couple more comments as well from Christopher Waller, who is, John Williams is an unlikely candidate for the Fed chair role. But Waller's kind of on the short list. He publicly supported a potential rate cut. That's probably why he's on the short list. He, that sort of buoyed the, and those that optimism around, rate cut in December. Technicals are now back to neutral on the hourlies. Are all back to strong buys. Not much of a change on the weekly technical for the S&P. The Dow is still a sell on the daily technical, not enough to recover back there. But look, I think this week is generally Thanksgiving is more quiet almost than Christmas, to be honest. You've got everyone, Thanksgiving's on the Thursday, so realistically everyone's leaving work or having a half day on the Wednesday, and then Fridays are just an absolute write-off. Markets will be open, but there won't be any real flow. So there'll be noise and largely ignored, there won't be any major company announcements, etc. As you can see here, Google was up 6, Nvidia rallied a little bit, and there you go, Broadcom up 11%. Amazon was up a couple of percent as well. Tesla were up 7. Wasn't really. There was a little bit of heat taken out of the defensive area of the market. Walmart, Home Depot, Costco, Procter and Gamble, Coca-Cola, Philip Morris, etc. That really there was just there was a bit of a big turnaround those as people switched defensive. As they switched back to more growth orientated, that's where a lot of the capital is going to get sucked out of. Big bounce backs in a lot of this stuff. Micron 8% as well. Look, what we've really just proven is that what the Lord giveth, the Lord can take away and then give back again really quickly, because we're getting massive moves to swings in multi-trillion-dollar companies, and market cap is no barrier, which sort of leads me to believe that there is significant amounts of leverage out there. Considering Nvidia can have daily swings around the size of the mining sector, in a day, which is pretty absurd, I would have thought. It wasn't really any major news outside of the Google thing, there's also a bit of buzz around their TPU with chips. So now a GPU versus a TPU, it's a really complicated explanation. So we're just going to try and simplify it as much as humanly possible here. A GPU is a graphics processing unit, and that's where Nvidia is top of the tree. Very flexible, very very Swiss Army knife essentially, and it's great for graphics, great for general deep AI and deep learning work. Really, Nvidia didn't go out there in the world and set out to be the top AI chip. They've made high quality GPUs and that it's been the market, like the Bitcoin miners, the high frequency trading systems, and the AI people that have found that their products are very useful. So there is an enormous amount of luck involved in this coming around at this period of time. Don't get me wrong; it's not the only reason they're up there. Jensen's done very well to leverage off this and really lock down in that data center ecosystem. But look, whereas Google's come at it from a custom chip, basically, and the TPU chips really, it's so hard to explain, but essentially it's, a Swiss Army knife versus a knife block where you've got specific knives for very specific reasons that you can bring out. And, they do very, very specific and less general purpose, more specific tasks, like as part of a production line. So, they're, you would have a, we got these tensor operations and the neural networks they're going to be used in. We're going to do an education piece on this, in the next couple of days and have a bit of an explainer. But we've already got one out there in our education section. Just go and have a look about, just explaining some of these chips. Kai does an extraordinary job at explaining it to me first case, and then to everyone via these articles and webinars. But this TPU really is going to start to eat away at that general purpose because they're like a sixth of the cost. And if Google starts to get to do this sort of stuff at the cloud level at scale, those 95% margins and 90 odd percent market share of Nvidia is going to be largely threatened. And obviously Gemini 3 as well. Is getting absolutely rave reviews, which is another reason it went up. There's also talk around Berkshire Hathaway buying a share in Google, which has happened, absolutely has happened. And everyone's wandering around going, Buffett's last trade, it is pretty much like not the case. It is highly, highly unlikely he had anything to do with that decision to invest in Google. So, Berkshire Hathaway in its current form definitely has, but for those of you wandering around going, Warren Buffett bought Google, well, his team did, but he wasn't wasn't the deciding factor. So you can probably just err away from that sort of sensationalism when in most of the media stuff. But this is where this battle is going to play out, and I think Google can start because they've got their own. They've got the browser, which is a very captive audience. They've obviously got Gemini as well, which is now getting rave reviews, and now they've got their own custom chips, and they can do it at a much lesser price. I think that they're starting to emerge really as the potential long-term leader in this race. Microsoft's very much dropped off the ball. OpenAI is very much dropping off the ball. Nvidia was an early winner, but whether people are going to continue to pay these ridiculous premiums for for these units when they can do it at a lower cost. I mean, money hasn't been like an issue at this stage because it's been the mega cap companies spending amongst themselves. Let's see how it goes when we get to the real world and people don't have unlimited budgets like these guys do. And I think that's where Google will definitely probably have the advantage, I would imagine. So, essentially we got Thanksgiving Thursday and Friday. We will have PPI and core PCE in the next couple of days as well from the US. They're pretty key inflation numbers. And look, there'd be a few scattered earnings, but a lot of people take this week off in the US. It's really, it really is their favourite long weekend. And it's peak travel, which is probably what got that that government shutdown sorted out, which was at least a positive. So I would imagine this rally, that was a pretty extreme bounce back overnight. It was obviously when it's all centered in those, in those large chip stocks and the mega cap stocks, then it's pretty easy for it to get back. It's pretty easy for it to get back up, but again, it can slip back down again. I'm still pretty cautious in terms of wanting to see what the data says, because there's still a fair bit of anecdotal evidence around. Around those layoffs. Apple announced some layoffs again overnight, which just sort of added to it as well. They're promising peace in the Ukraine, which, I don't really think so. I just think this is just a swing back and forth in a fairly tight range, and they're hunting around for excuses. I think Google's move forward is pretty Google specific, and I actually don't see why any of the other, apart from Broadcom, why any of the others really benefited from that. I think it was just correlation for correlation's sake. So we're going to go into Amazon. Well, Amazon in particular overnight's committed $50 billion to supercomputer spend in the US, and $15 billion spend in Indiana for a data center. Tomorrow I'm going to go into a lot of the capital spending from a lot of these big companies and the debt they're issuing, which is kind of eye-watering. And well over the 100 billion mark in the last week or so. So those rate cut hopes have pushed gold up 2%, silver up 2.5%, copper up 1.5%, platinum up 2.4%. And crude as well. Iron ore was up a little, just under 1%. And lithium, only down 5% for the week, down 1.5% yesterday, but coming off an absolute heater. Uranium making a bit of a bounce back. That's one of those hot thematic trades. It'll just move with the equity market at probably 5 times the pace. And Bitcoin, Mr. Judell here, walked in yesterday morning and was brave enough to call a bottom in Bitcoin, and at this point, 24 hours on, he's largely right. So, he's 100% right. We bounced 3% overnight. Not much in the currencies, and in terms of Aussie stocks today, like I said, the SPY's up about 0.4 or 36 points around the 8,600 mark, and then we got Ramsay Healthcare tipping higher earnings, Iris not saying there's no confirmation of a takeover, Linus is flagging a production hit from Kalgoorlie, and IPD Group saying FY26 growth and upbeat on their pipeline. So there's some of the headlines in the Aussie market today. I think overall it'll be relatively quiet for the rest of the week and probably through till this time next week. We'll continue to do a little bit more broader context in the morning, in the morning call on the AI rally and what's going on behind the scenes, as opposed to pretending that there's something going on like the rest of the media does. Everyone have a great day, and we'll speak again tomorrow morning. General advice warning. The content presented in this presentation is intended for informational purposes only and provides general advice only. It does not take into account your personal objectives, financial situation, or specific needs. This information should not be the sole resource when making investment decisions. We strongly recommend you seek the advice of a financial professional.